Okay. Thank you. We're calling to order the meeting of the Montara Water and Sanitary District Board, September 4th, 2014 at 7:42. And I'm going to mention up front that Director Huber is participating by teleconference from Guerneville, California, as noticed on the agenda, and that Director Harvey is running a few minutes late. Could we have the roll call, please?
Director Snyder-Carter.
Present.
Director Boyd.
Here.
Director Wilson.
Here.
Director Huber.
Here.
Terrific. Let me also note that since we have someone participating by teleconference, every vote tonight will be by roll call. It's required by the law. So, President's statement. I would like to mention some fresh news, hot off the press from the San Mateo County Office of Emergency Services. Communication went out today talking to well owners, or well users, I should say, because some people live in homes and don't own the wells. But they're concerned about well owners and well users during the drought time, and as are we. So they offer some advice on what to do. I would say the principal thing is be smart about how much water you're using, but our community is definitely one of the smartest there is about this. Conserve what you can, have low flow fixtures installed, fix your leaks and your drips and your running toilets. These are all good things. They also suggest a few things, and I'm going to mention one because this is the one option out of the three that they gave that I think is probably the best answer of all in case your well starts to go dry or you have concerns about it. And they offer three things. One would be to do some work on your well. Another would be to have somebody truck water in. Or the third thing, which we can actually help with, connect to the public system. We have connections available. And if you have any concerns about this, would like to explore that, I invite you to come into the office. I'm sure Clemens or our office staff would be happy to talk to you about that. So it's timely. Let me just mention that our district is still in very good shape with respect to the drought. Probably way better than most. We have no restrictions that we're enforcing at this time. We are definitely asking everyone to conserve and be smart about the way you use water. Encourage your friends and neighbors to do the same thing. Our community is making us proud and doing a great job with that this year. So keep up the good work. And with that, do we have any oral comments for items other than those on the agenda?
I might continue with the previous subject, and that is that I did read on Nextdoor Montara that at least one person is concerned about her well going dry. And I would recommend that she come in and get a water permit and hook into our system. Then you won't need to worry. Your water is treated and delivered, and it's top quality water, and you don't need to worry about incoming contaminants from changing levels in groundwater and other kinds of problems. So we have lots of permits, and we're happy to sell them. Thank you.
Okay, we're going to have a public hearing now. The item is well, actually, Clemens, you can introduce it if you wish, but let's start. I'm going to start simply by opening the public hearing, and if you could introduce the item.
So we have an existing lease with SDC 5 LLC. They're working with Crown Castle, a firm that is essentially managing cell sites for large providers. And what this is essentially a cell site lease, mobile equipment lease. So we have two poles out here at the district office that provide service for Highway 1 and the local communities. The existing lease would expire in 2018. We were approached by the company that they would like to extend the lease and it was now negotiated to extend the lease to 2024. There was some negotiations with the company, so there was definitely a consideration of other sites in the district, for example, utilizing other sites in the district, utilizing more of our district property, etc. What we now have in front of us is very much the same lease that is in existence. In order to comply with legal requirements, the lease must be restated and amended with a commencement date of June 1st, 2014. And what we negotiated so far was a consideration for extending the agreement was a $5,000 bonus payment to the district. So essentially $1,000 per year that we are in business with this company more. The amended and restated lease agreement was reviewed by legal, district council. We also had committee involved, Southside committee, and we published a notice twice in the Half Moon Bay Review in advance of this public hearing. So the public hearing is already open. Staff recommendation will be to hear the relevant testimony, close the public hearing, and adopt the resolution approving the amended and restated wireless communications site lease agreement.
Do we have any testimony from the audience? Seeing none, can I have a motion to close the hearing?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we close the hearing. Could we have a roll call vote about closing the hearing, please?
Director Slater Carter,
Aye.
Wait a minute.
Well, Bill, after we close the hearing, then we'll go to board discussion.
Okay.
Director Slater Carter,
Aye.
Director Boyd,
Aye.
Director Wilson,
Aye.
Director Huber.
Okay, and this is on a motion to close the public hearing?
That's correct.
Yes, aye.
Okay. So by a vote of 4-0, the hearing is closed. All right. Board discussion, please. Bill, it sounded like you might have some discussion. Why don't we start with you?
Okay, that, first of all, we have an existing lease that expires in 2018 that we received this just several days ago to review it. And I just think that we should extend this till next week's meeting, week after next meeting, the 18th, so that I can get more up to speed on this, because I see no sense of urgency whatsoever to sign an amendment that may be in Crown Castle's interest, but it's not necessarily in the interest of the district. And so that before casting a vote on that, I'd just like to see this extended, and we take this up at next month, or next 2 weeks meeting on the 18th.
Let me ask what the purpose of that extension would be.
So I have more time to study the issue.
I think it's a fairly simple issue, frankly, and I've been hearing conversations about cell sites because of the combination of various companies actually being canceled. And I, for one, am happy to have a long-term lease that will ensure that we have some income for that amount of time. I don't want these folks to suddenly merge, I don't know, company A with company B, and we don't have a need, and one of them doesn't have a need to pay us. So I think it's better. I don't see that it's a big deal one way or the other. I can't see any great harm, I suppose, in postponing it, but it just makes for a longer agenda next time, and let's just get it done with now.
Right, any thoughts?
No, Bill, my feeling is that this is, in the big realm of life, this is relatively insignificant. And I'm going to trust I think management has had a chance to do their due diligence. And to be honest with you, we've got much bigger issues to deal with than a $3,000 a month or whatever we're getting lease. And so I would prefer that we vote on it today.
Yeah.
Well, that in talking to Aaron Levinson, who's with a company called Communication Leasing Services, I sent him a copy of that amendment, and he felt that very strongly he did not think that we should sign it, and so that because there's and other people that I've talked to expressed the same thing, that there's no reason why that I can't have 2 weeks just to study this more, and then bring it up at the next month or next week's not next week's, but the meeting 2 weeks from now, the 18th. Take it up then, because there really wasn't enough time to really study this adequately.
So, Bill, let me ask a couple of questions. You mentioned by name someone who is a professional in the field.
Mm-hmm.
You got a recommendation. I hope he provided you with what he considers a basis for that recommendation, and that you could relay that to us.
Well, it was basically a personal friend of mine told me about it, so I called him up. And so that whether he is, he certainly seems to be knowledgeable about this. Whether he's right on this issue or not, I don't know. But I certainly don't see that with an existing lease that can expires in 4 years, that we can't have 2 weeks to study this a little more carefully.
So Bill, I'm sorry, that's not what I was asking. If he felt strongly enough to recommend that we not execute this, I hope you inquired as to why. And I'm not asking how you came to talk to him. I talk to people I know too.
Yeah.
I think that's great. I'm asking, did you inquire of him as to why he recommended against signing this?
Yes. And basically, it's the fact that that it's just not in our interest right now to do this. I mean, for $5,000, that they're extending this lease term for 6 years, and that may be legitimate and may be proper, but I would just like to have 2 weeks to study it more in depth myself, so that I can make an informed vote.
Well, okay, I'm going to ask a third time, because if someone's going to recommend against and rely upon their professional stature and experience, I would frankly expect them, if they're saying no, I would expect them to back it up with something. And it makes me wonder, did he actually read it? And has he read the leases that are the other leases that we have on the adjacent property? I'll tell you part of why I'm pushing back hard on this, Bill, and that's this. I've helped negotiate each and every one of these leases that we have on our facility.
Right.
I've worked with Crown Castle before and the others, as well as the County of San Mateo Office of Emergency Services, who is essentially our kind of our fourth tenant. This is, absent something material about what could reasonably be expected to be obtained without specifics about what's happening in the industry right now. What we're looking at is extending something that we hammered out and have been working with quite successfully, funding the district to the tune of about $2,600 a month for many years. We're going to have a lot of things come before us, and I'm not.
Yeah, I just don't think that 2 weeks for because I don't think that there was enough questions in my mind because I just got it a couple days ago.
Well, so I mean, if you read it and you don't like it, what are you going to propose? That we reopen negotiations?
No, I'm just saying that I want 2 weeks to study it more, and yeah, maybe I might say that we should open to new negotiations, and it turns out that I can substantively say that that's a good idea. But right now, that you're asking me to take a vote on something that I don't feel I have enough information to make a decision on this. And it's not a thing like paralysis by analysis. There's simply not enough time to review this.
Let me note for the record that 7:58, Director Harvey has joined us.
Thank you.
Jim, we're discussing we've closed the public hearing and we're discussing the extension of the wireless contract.
Oh, okay.
And I know you just sat down, but if you had anything that you wanted to engage on, let me catch up to where we are.
Sure, thank you. Appreciate that.
Three of us have expressed an interest in moving ahead with this tonight. Director Huber is asking for a 2-week extension, so he has more time to review this based on some, I think it's fair to say, critical comments from a friend who's also in the business. I don't know if you have any thoughts on it prepared, and I don't want to catch it flat-footed.
No, that's okay. Was it recommended by the staff, and any questions from the other board members? Any issues?
No.
So go ahead, just continue on.
Okay. Well, Bill, I'm getting a strong sense of consensus amongst 4 of the 5 board members that we'd like to proceed. Let me note that there are other contracts that will be coming up for renewal, and as those come up, there will be additional opportunities to come in and try to find the best possible advantage in each and every one of those.
I still think it's reasonable to have 2 weeks on this. This is almost everything that comes before us. I don't want to vote on something unless I have had the chance to study it. Okay,
Yeah.
And I've already spent the last 2 days spending a lot of time on this, and I just don't feel prepared to make an intelligent vote on this. And so that I still think that 2 weeks is not unreasonable at all. And I would actually, if I'd like to make, can I make a motion or whatever it is that to extend this so that we take this up at the next meeting?
Well,
Well, let him make the motion, and then
Yeah.
if there's a second, then we can proceed.
if you'd like.
Bill, are you going to make the motion?
Okay, yeah, I make a motion that the review and possible action regarding FTC 5 lease renewal for mobile wireless communication equipment be extended and taken up at the next board meeting, which is September 18th.
Okay, do we have a second? Motion dies for a lack of a second. Do we have another motion?
I move that we approve the contract
It's,
with the extension.
So this is a resolution, so.
I move that we review, that we support the STC 5 lease extension for renewal for the mobile wireless communications
I'll restate.
equipment.
You know
So-
what it might do, is just there's the actual formal resolution.
Let me just restate. So I understand your motion to be a motion to adopt the resolution finding, next in order,
Next in
the
order.
resolution finding that certain district property is not needed for immediate district purposes, that use thereof under a proposed amended and restated lease with a term not exceeding 10 years is compatible with district uses, that said lease will be of public benefit, approving said lease and memorandum thereof, and authorizing and directing execution of said lease and memorandum.
That's exactly what I wanted to say.
I thought so. Do we have a second?
I second.
Okay, thank you. Moved and seconded, moved by Catherine, seconded by Dwight. May we have a roll call vote, please?
Director Carter.
Aye.
Director Harvey.
Aye.
Director Boyd.
Aye.
Director Wilson.
Aye.
Director Huber.
No.
Okay. With a vote of 4-1, the motion passes. Moving on to the consent agenda. Do we have any items on the consent agenda that any directors would like to pull for consideration?
I have one question on my, Clemens, on my consent agenda, I did not see financials. Was that, was there a reason for that?
Yes. Instead, you should see actually a very brief staff report that essentially states that due to the focus on the annual audit in the recent week, the financial statements and executive summary will be provided with the next consent agenda.
Okay, thank you.
If I can make just another comment on the consent agenda, on the rain report, we are actually going to try to switch to, I believe, better format, which is, we're looking now instead of fiscal years at water years.
Good.
And we are simply providing printouts of the rain gauge, online rain gauge, that actually has quite a bit of information about prior precipitation included. So we believe that that is much more readable and understandable information that the board can use in the prior format.
This is on the website. You can get to it, and it's pretty neat. It's got the average annual and this year's and last year's water in a cumulative format, so you can see based on the time of the year how we're doing. And this year we're at 16.68 inches with an average annual of 32, so we're a little over half of the average. Not a great water year, but I suppose it could be worse. So at least we know where we are. Can I have a motion then for approving the consent agenda?
Can I just have one more comment?
Sure.
Since the rain report and the solar energy report is now on the website and it's being maintained currently at this point.
Only the rain report, not the solar
Okay.
energy.
So my point is, and for consideration, I could save perhaps staff time. I think I'm prepared to look at the rain report off the website versus having it given to us. And I'm wondering, as we proceed, if the solar energy report gets on whatever's on the website, I think that we as board members could take responsibility in looking at it versus having you give it to us. So I would, as a consideration for the group
Yeah.
of us, I would think that we might think about that going forward. I'm perfectly willing to look at it on the website versus you putting it up.
You know, we started doing this back when you just simply couldn't get the data online, and I think you make a really good point.
I have to say, I like having it in the agenda as somebody who has gone through agendas in the past and wanted to look at various pieces of information and put them together. I have.
For the historical.
For historical records, I think it's useful. And oftentimes things that are in print are more durable than those that are in digits.
To that point, the website actually offers historical data.
I've looked at it.
Yeah, but I'm sympathetic in both directions, and it's not really on the agenda to discuss tonight. Let me just
Right, let's just.
close with this comment that I too, with Catherine, have gone through 30 and 40 and 50-year-old documents, and that kind of records retention is, some of the things we were
Iffy with
missing.
digits, yeah.
Yeah, we'll figure something out. Okay, so now can I have a motion on the consent agenda? All right, thank you, Dwight. Can we have a second, please?
I'll second.
Thank you, Jim. So it's been moved and seconded that we approve the consent agenda as shown in the agenda. May we have a roll call vote, please?
Director Slater Carter,
I'm going to abstain. I wasn't here to approve the minutes and I haven't watched the meeting yet.
Okay.
Director Harvey.
Aye.
Director Boyd,
Aye. Aye.
Director Wilson,
Aye.
Director Huber.
I
Okay.
was on mute before.
Okay. All right, that's four motions, 4 votes aye, no votes nay, and 1 abstention. The motion carries 4-0. Okay. Moving on to page 2 of the agenda. No old business. New business item 1, review and possible action concerning revision of standard sewer specifications.
So this was actually one of the benefits of having a new website and essentially assessing what's up on the website. And Pippin brought it actually to our attention that we could update our sewer standard specifications so that we have brand new set up on our brand new website. And the district adopted the last revision in 2010 of the sewer standard specifications. Now Newt Engineering has suggested some minor modifications of the standard specifications. There's a name change, that's standard sewer specifications now. There are other details listed, and I'm not quite sure how much detail I should go. And since Pippin is here, if there are any questions about the engineering details, I'd rather have him elaborate on the specifics of the materials and other changes to the standard specifications. Want to mention I think the electronic version actually had the full written standard specifications included in the version that the board has before you. We included only the drawings. We have a full copy available here. I think it's worth just taking a look at, just to see actually how much work goes into this. And besides that, the recommendation now is to adopt a resolution adopting the standard sewer specifications for sanitary sewer improvements and repealing the prior resolution.
Can I ask a question? So this is an ongoing document, so this is not set in stone. This changes as you move along, correct?
Correct. Yeah, I think in the Montara Water and Sanitary Code, there are certain requirements for building standards, and those standards refer to the standard specifications for water and the standard specifications for sewer, to cover those specific details of how construction should be dealt with for different types of construction. So as new methods become available, or maybe code or regulation changes at the state level, perhaps, between the last major update we did was kind of pushed by the some details when the state went to the change the building code regulations in 2009 to the Uniform Building Code. So this is a document that the management and can review going forward and keep it up to date. So it's in accordance with the whatever either regulations are put on agencies such as this, or improvements that we make to try to make the system more reliable.
Okay, thank you. So I have a question. Why are we as a board voting on this? And the more I thought about this, I was going through this document and I was thinking, I know squat about 99.8% of this stuff. And ultimately, we have to trust you all to do this anyway. So is this a legal mandate that we vote on something we know essentially nothing about? I mean, I was thinking about this as come as I kind of talked about this
Just like
earlier.
the California legislature.
Well, I know, but that's a whole separate discussion. But I'm just thinking, just from an operational standpoint, I mean, we're entrusting you all to essentially, manage and maintain. It's kind of like policies. There's certain policies of technical stuff that we rely on the expertise of you all. So it's just a general. I don't mind voting on this, but as I thought about this, I thought, shouldn't we more or less just, anyway, it's more of a procedural question than a.
If I could just chime in with an opinion, I mean, having watched this evolve,
Yeah.
when I first got here, clay pipe was still allowed in our specifications, and now when you look at the on the drawing 10.1, we have details in here like all couplings have to be 316 stainless steel shear band type. After having looked at, as a board, at a number of the difficulties that have come before us, sometimes it's about, hey, we're going to do a project, and we say it's a lot of money. We'd like to understand the project.
Right.
We've developed some. We're maybe a little more hands-on than a lot of boards, but for me, I like the visibility into it. I don't intend to take any exception to any of the things in here. I'm actually glad to see the bit about the improved rodent protection in the cleanout boxes, that kind of thing. It's like little by little, this stays up to date, and so I hear your point, and at some level, I'd be perfectly content if it was a ministerial function. But Dave, you had a
the legal reason for presenting these to the board is to have the advantage of the design immunity, which is a statutory provision. The governmental agencies are afforded the benefit of the doubt, so to speak, for incidents involving injuries and damages, claims. And there's a provision that relates to, as I say, design immunity. If the board has specifically approved specifications and particularly design, then there's a presumption that they are correct and not the cause of an injury.
But I mean, and again, I don't want to, I mean, I'm okay with the procedure for tonight, but I mean, other ways to manage that is make this a consent agenda, or it could be, I'm just trying to figure out for these very highly technical design issues, and I understand, Scott, that there's an evolutional process and we should be observing it. I don't have any question about that. But I'm just thinking as we go forth in our business, I mean, to me, this is a consent agenda item.
That's a policy decision.
Well, if we didn't have any questions about it, we would have been done with it about 5 minutes ago.
Well,
As long as you get it.
and having it on the regular agenda gives people in the community a explicit permission and opportunity to comment on what they've read. Because we may have contractors who would come in and say, oh no, we think not that they would, think cardboard pipe is much better because we can, it's cheap.
We used to use cardboard pipe
I know we
a
did.
long time ago.
I had was it the Bitburg or
Orangeburg.
yeah,
Yeah.
I had the Orangeburg
Yeah.
at my first house.
Just a minor comment, if I could just add one additional comment. Occasionally, communities, for specific either decisions by the management or a recommendation from engineering or a regulatory, well, it could recommend a standard that's slightly higher than the base plumbing code, for example. So San Francisco, for example, still uses clay pipe as a standard, and they have a reason for that in their system. But we've kind of disallowed that here because for this environment and this community that has enough disadvantages that we want to ask contractors to use a grade higher or even 2 grades higher than the minimum. So if the community, any member of the public says, well, why do I have to spend extra to do this mainline extension because you're asking for a higher quality material, we've basically brought it to you, we've reviewed it, and had the public discussion for that increase in standard. So,
I'd mentioned too that there have been in the past some issues with people doing projects, having an opinion about how things ought to be done, and this document is actually a well-defined standard that the agency can stand on.
Oh, I support the document.
Oh, yeah.
I think the document is a great document.
I think it's useful to be able to say, this was adopted at a board meeting. But you're right, I mean, consent agenda, if somebody wants to pull it off for discussion, it's always possible too. Although we don't do it often enough to actually worry too much. But I think in general, we can look at future items and see if they fall into that category.
That was my comment.
All right, so for this, we would need to adopt the resolution next in order, a resolution adopting standard sewer specifications for sanitary sewer improvements and repealing resolution number 1151.
So moved.
Catherine moves. Do we have a second?
I second.
Okay, so Catherine moved, Jim seconded. This will be a vote on adopting the resolution. Maybe we have a roll call vote, please. Oh, actually, I'm sorry. Hey, Bill, I didn't ask specifically, but since you're remote, let me ask, did you have any comments or questions?
Well, yeah, the only one I have is that really that this is another one of those that, I just got this document, and the truth be told is I haven't read any of it. And, just as a matter of procedure, I don't know that I have anything against it or anything like this, but I would like to be able to at least have enough time to be able to read it before I have to vote on it. So that, and I have not had the opportunity to do that yet. So, can I abstain from voting on this?
Can you abstain? Question to you, Dave. Can he abstain on voting?
Yes.
Okay,
so the answer is yes.
Okay. And I will abstain, but it's not that I have any objection to it or I see anything wrong with it, or that I would even have any comments about it. It's just that I feel very uncomfortable about voting on something I haven't read.
Okay. All right. Any further questions or discussion? Seeing none, could we have the roll call vote, please?
Director Slater Carter?
Aye.
Director Hardy?
Aye.
Director Boyd?
Aye.
Director Wilson?
Aye.
Director Huber?
Abstain.
Okay, so that is 4 ayes, 0 nays, and 1 abstention. The motion passes 4-0. Moving on to the next item, review and possible action concerning the sewer system management plan.
So all California sanitation agencies are required to file a sewer system management plan. We call it SSMP. We file it with the regulatory agency, the Department of Water Resources. So far, SAM has essentially a joint SAM SSMP, so we're in the SAM SSMP, included and prepared sections that are specific for this district. Now, the state has asked all the agencies to file separate plans. I think SAM recently adopted their SSMP, so the SAM board members might be more familiar with essentially what an SSMP is and what its purpose is. In short, it's a plan how to manage the operations of the sewer system and define how the district reacts to certain events, and also it's a periodical review of the performance of this agency. The document is quite substantial, and we have only relevant portions of this document included as attachment in this printed version as well as in the electronic version. We have a full copy available. However, and I swear this has nothing to do with Bill's prior comments on others, the staff recommendation, I think, should be a bit different than what it is in the written document. It's a substantial document that I think is worth taking a look at, and I actually suggest that we move this item for adoption to a later meeting. However, we have Pippin here who can give us a great introduction into the SSMP that he prepared for the district, and also take a look at how our system actually is doing right now a little bit. So with that, I'd like to hand this over to Pippin, and again, the staff recommendation would be to bring this up at a later item one more time. I don't think we're losing much.
I'd like to verify that Clemens had previously mentioned doing this, holding off on this for future reference.
Well, since we're all making a comment, I was flipping through the emergency plan, and I really like seeing this. And I understand Bill helped out with some of this, yes, on the emergency response and the sewer overflow. No?
Bill Huber?
Yeah. No, I know he's had a great interest in
Yeah.
our response plan.
No,
so-
I've not received any,
Okay.
Yeah.
comment from any, members of the board.
Well,
thus far.
regardless, I'm
That's one
grateful that
reason why
Bill's
we're
been
asking.
showing attention to
One
these
reason.
matters, and I was really glad to see the document. It looks really good.
Okay, now, so, for the camera, I'm Pippin Cavagnaro from Newt Engineering, and, I'll start, before I kind of give introduction, I'll start by saying that before you guys spend too much time reviewing the electronic version, or when you may start seeing some comments when you go through the paper version in hand, we've made a series of corrections and minor updates to that great thickness of a binder over there just today. So we'll make a new consolidated electronic version available to Clemens tomorrow or early next week for distribution to you, so you can get an updated copy, because were a few minor corrections that were made. So just a little preference back in history, and I didn't, I didn't want to paper you with too much in hand to kind of give you an overview when I can kind of present some background. I know some of the board members here who have participated in SAM board actions with SSMPs understand the background, but effectively 2005, so about almost 10 years ago now, the state of California started issuing recommendations for coming up with a management plan for agencies to come up with their own management plan, such that they weren't just coasting forward on autopilot, managing without doing much management, just kind of riding along and not worrying about how many spills they had and things like that. So for public health and an improvement, that was a recommendation that was, or an order that was started, back in 2005, and then there was, in 2006, there was some increased recommendations, and then there was an executive order most recently last year, which made it much stronger that examples like for Montara that were joint powers couldn't rely on a consolidated SSMP any longer. For example, in the joint powers, SAM is a contractor that cleans the district sewers, even though they're sort of, all the agencies participate. If Montara chose to have a different contractor to manage the sewer, or hire your own staff, more staff, you'd need to have some internal guidelines on how to do that. And then they also last year require that the district commits to going online and inputting every month whether you have a spill or not. It used to be you'd only go in if you had a spill. Now you have to certify that you don't have a spill to make sure that you don't fall off the face of the earth. So every month Clemens has to go in and say, no, we didn't have a spill this month, we're all good. And so the standards have gotten quite stringent on that level. So in the agenda, I kind of had we put in the main document, which are the sections that are mandated by the state, and there's 11 sections. And I'll just read off the titles for the audience. You have a goal for the district, you have the organization of the district, you have to review your legal authority, which would be your code, to make sure you have legal authority to require sewer and also impose violations for people that don't pay attention to the code. You have an operation and maintenance program section where you are reviewing your system, to discuss that you are reviewing your system, that you have a capital plan and so forth, that you actually have budget to do your work. Detailing the overflow and emergency response plan, making sure you have lists of people and phone numbers. It starts with the simple stuff. Who do you call if something happens? But also how you respond, and if there's environmental protections that have to come into play. The FOG program specifically is the district and their contract provider, in this case SAM, working actively to educate the public about FOG and how you keep the system clean. Oh,
Fumes.
fog, excuse me, fats, oils, and grease.
In
Fats-
Montara, it
Yeah,
has-
fats, oils, and grease. Not the fog that you have coming in the coast.
Yes,
Fat-
folks,
the-
we're actually planning to do something about
Yeah,
the
right.
fog.
We're going to clear the fog.
Yeah.
But we're going to clear the fats, oils, and grease from the sewers, or try to educate the public or restaurants about not putting the oils and greases into the sewer, having grease traps, and so forth. Doing a system evaluation, making sure your system has capacity for current and future growth. How you manage your data. Do you collect data? Do you keep track of your SSOs? Do you so forth. And then the SSMP audit section, which would state, where you have to certify that, yes, each year you're going to look backwards and see how you're doing. Are you doing better or worse, and how do you make improvements? And finally, communication program, which would be communication to the public, plumbers, other relevant agencies like the county, and so forth. So, it takes a number of minutes just to discuss the sections that we need to discuss. So without going into extreme detail on all of those sections, the SSMP is really a working document for the management to write down information, keep track of contact numbers, try to keep contact numbers up to date, companies and vendors they use, good communication with their contract provider if they contract cleaning services, and so what I've kind of included for handouts, in addition to what you had in the agenda packet, was sort of a sample of this overflow response plan, and these are working documents. So if it's we decide that we need to change how communication happens or whatnot, it's a guideline type document that the board would say accept something as a resolution in the future, that you've completed all the state requirements, but then it's expected that each year or as needed you'll update it if your system changes or if your needs change. And so some of this has to do with how you deal with initial response. What do you do if it's inside a house or outside? Some examples of if someone were going out and one of the workers were going out in the field, they'd know what a lateral is supposed to look like, what the elements there are, and describing the backflow prevention devices and the things that we have in place as part of our code to try to prevent spills, how to estimate spills, and so forth. Because a lot of the initial things that happen the first few minutes of response is important to try to gather information and to stop the spill and to get people mobilized quickly. This kind of little handout of slides, I was tempted to put a pretty picture on the cover of the coast or the trees or something, but the point of the management plan is to actually kind of, it's about our system, and a lot of our system, it isn't that exciting. This is an example of a control panel that everyone drives past every day, and most people in the community don't recognize what it is. But it's what the public doesn't see is all the work that the staff and the cleaning crews has to work hard on to maintain. And the goal really of the district and the desire of the management and crew is to keep our local waters clean by providing the best stewardship of the infrastructure we have and protect our community, to reach out into the future. The real point of the management plan is to show the state you're fulfilling your responsibilities, managing your sewer system, and it also gives an opportunity to kind of self-reflect and make sure you have all the parts you need in terms of staff, in terms of external resources, in terms of your design standards and codes, to get the job done. So I think we can discuss some of the details. I think what I really want to bring your attention to in the back of this little document. We have some slides that kind of just, describe the current district structure as it stands. So we have one here that has the public at the top, and then next come the board of directors, and then they have in the hierarchy you'd have the management of the district, which would be general manager would be Clemens, and then you have staff and external support like engineering support or other contractors that the district might choose to hire. And you have, there's actually a typo on this page because it says STAM staff on this one, and this is referring to district staff. You have staff, but they mostly work on the water side. What you have is supervision over a contract provider, which in this case would be SAM. And it could be another contractor, to clean the system. In the future, if the district needs change and you decide to hire field staff, you'd represent that there. Just a schematic for a feel of how the district's laid out. I've included the sewer pump station network, which kind of shows a lot of the key hard assets in the district squished onto one page. But it gives a representation of you have a north section and a south section, and then they end up pumping down to the SAM treatment plant. It's kind of helpful when someone wants to know where something goes. If a pump station breaks, you can look upstream and see what's coming to it, and that would give, operators they need to go, for example, if there's a problem at, at Canoff pump station, they might have to go back and temporarily turn Date Hard off or do something to pick up that additional sewage and transport it. One of the things that the plan asks for is, do you have provisions for normal response, and do you have provisions for on-call response, and how does that happen? So, this is sort of some charts to talk about communication between people, and obviously anyone can call anyone, but there's, it's one thing that's important is that the SAM, in this case, the contact provider, also, refers back to Clemens, and that the communication is happening so the proper certifications can happen at the state. To kind of speed to the end, some interesting stuff. In the report, one of the sections we have is the spills from the last 7 years. I didn't include those here. What I included was sort of some graphs of what the spills look like. When you look at this last 7 years, the district's had 45 spills. Sounds like a lot. Maybe it is more than we'd like, but it's really worth noting that in the last 18 months, we have had no spills. And the SAM crew and the effective capital programs that the district has been executing every year, and the continuing televising of the system, I think, are large contributors to that. The first graph shows that, back in 2007, we had a fairly large spill, over 6,000 gallons, and subsequently, the spills have gotten less and less frequent. Looking at the same data again, I put the gallons spilled per year, so it'll be a tally of each year, how many gallons were spilled that year, and it's been trending down every year. By 2007-8 combined, we had almost 10,000 gallons spilled. Last year, we had only about 800, and this year we've had none so far in the last 18 months. And same in the number of events. In 2008, the cumulative for that year was over 15 spills, and that's gradually been decreasing. And this year we've had none. I think the one thing I didn't feature here, but I think is really important to note, the current plan has been very consistent with this board, looking forward to continue a strong capital replacement plan. And I didn't include the table here tonight, but I probably should have. the current replacement rate on the district, we're doing between, on the lower side, about 2,800 feet, on the higher side about 4,000 feet of sewer replacement a year. And we've been doing that for a number of years now. And to put it in perspective, if we're doing about 3/4 of a mile a year, the district has about 24 miles of gravity system at 5 miles of force mains. We have about 30 miles. We're going to be done, hopefully, on less than a 50-year cycle, 2.5% a year. So in 25 to 30 years, we'll have replaced most of the critical sewers in the system. Sounds like a long time, but that replacement rate's actually twice what most agencies in Northern California are maintaining right now. So it's really kudos to the public and the board maintaining a consistent plan.
Does that leave us in better shape in the event of an earthquake like just happened?
It does. I think we still have work to do on our force mains. I think it's very clear both SAM and Montara have force mains that are older pipe materials. And so force mains, I'd say, would be, in my mind, one of the critical ones would be coming from Chart House. There are 2 force mains there, which is good. So we have, if one fails, we have a redundant one. But yes, because the newer pipes are more flexible. So in that respect, it definitely will be a help compared to clay pipe. But in terms of risk, force mains are something that needs, we've had repeated problems with distillery because of ground movement there, for example.
If I could
Yeah.
highlight one more time what you actually just said, I just want to make sure that this is heard. Since it's 7 years now, this district has seen a sewer improvement project in the range between $300,000 and $600,000 every year. In the time periods before, you might help me out, but the sewer improvement projects happened every 2, 3, 4 years. So essentially, since 7 years, we have almost tripled the efforts to fix up the sewer system, and the results are clearly visible right in front of us.
It helped. One of the things that helped with that was that, especially during the downturn, we found that we were getting bids that were coming in so low, we could do additional work for the same amount of money that we had budgeted.
That definitely,
And I'd like to thank
that definitely
staff,
helped, yeah, getting us
our manager
ahead.
and our engineer for noticing, hey, here's an opportunity, and making a clear and compelling case why it was the right time to take the budget and get really some excellent return on what we were spending.
Yeah. The other thing that kind of came up in my review, and I think you guys well know this from the water side and discussing water use, and in this last page, I put as a matter of kind of discussion and just for information, because part of the auditing process is you're looking at your system and you're looking at your data, and so these estimates on this table have included our pump station flows, and my numbers are probably on the high side because we don't want to be estimating too low. But the first table comes from historical design data, dating in part back into the 80s. Now there has been some growth in the district since then, some houses built, but not substantial. Basically, if you take the pump stations where everything's running through, Montara pump station, we'd expect your dry weather flow to be based on EDUs, based on how many houses. Every house uses, say, 220 to 250 gallons of water. Maybe 600,000 gallons of water per day in sewage. But as you've probably seen from your SAM flow reports, those numbers are way down. 1.65 is sort of their stated average dry weather flow, but I think it's even down the last few months. It's down maybe in the 1.2 or 1.3. And so using the 1.65 number and assuming on the higher side, because Montara fluctuates between 20 to 23% of the flow. So if we take the higher number of 23%, flows end up per house, rather than the design value of 150 gallon, or 250 gallons, we're approaching, or even, maybe even below, 150 gallons. So people are using 100 gallons, or only 63% of the water that we would design for based on standard sewer designs. So I think that's evident, and it maybe is even lower than that. And I think it's evident that your district communication to the public about conservation, and that all of these things, it helps the water side, and also helps the sewer side, reducing treatment costs to SAM and so forth. So I thought that was
What does that
interesting.
do for the sizing of some of the wet weather facilities in terms of, I guess that's more about rain. That doesn't have to
The
do
wet
with
weather
conservation.
facilities, you're talking about numbers of 5 to 1 or 10 to 1 for safety factors. So yeah, if we're looking at 300, 400,000 gallons now, it could be 1,400, 1.4 million on a peak rain event or something.
Mhm.
That's why we have the Walker tank here.
Right.
And so forth, to help that peak storage. But that's coming down too, I think, historically, if we go back and look at some of those old studies that showed some really high peaks. And that's one of the things we discussed in this plan, is what's been done in your capacity evaluation in the past. And Montara, in joint with SAM, has spent a lot of effort and money with those Carollo studies and different things in the past that showed high target areas for I&I, for example. And that's been one of the factors that's been included in targeting the areas for capital improvements. And I think those flows are coming down as a result of that, those peak wet weather flows. So sort of a quick run through. I think if you can I'll get you an updated complete document and take some time with it. We please invite comments, everything from the smallest, hey, this doesn't read right, to are you sure is this really how it is? And it's a time for comment to reflect on how the district runs, really. So,
Do you have any questions or comments?
No, I think this is timely. I want to thank staff and Bill for doing this. I didn't realize we were in the position where we now have to report we have no spills. Every month. That's amazing. So I guess if we miss a report, we are assumed to have spilled. That's not good. That's guilty without.
yeah, they'll send letters out reminding you, hey, you didn't submit, and you're not in compliance with your legal responsibility to certify that you're in good standing.
Interesting. Well, and I'm pleased that we've been replacing pipe as we have. I think the situation in Napa brings to mind the importance of having up-to-date sewer and water systems both. So that's, I look forward to reading this a little more closely. From what I've looked at it looks pretty clear. So, thank you.
I do have a question, a procedural question. So we'll look at it and we'll vote on it. But I'm also getting the feeling that you guys update this on an ongoing basis.
It's required to be
Now this is
updated
going into
annually.
a state website, if I understand, correct?
Yes.
That we populate. So are we suggesting that we vote on a document that's live and that you may make adjustments and update it on an ongoing basis? I mean, how is this going to be managed going forward? Because, I mean, I was just listening to your presentation. You already said that the stuff you sent out is outdated, because I made about 13 different comments in the last 5 minutes. So I guess my question is, just from an understanding standpoint, I mean, I'm fine with it being a live document being updated as you need to be, but the procedural as to what the board involvement is going to be, what's the thinking behind that? Are you thinking that we'll update it over a year and send it back to us on an annual basis, or tell me how that's going to be operationalized?
So I believe it's a 2-year period where this has to be.
Well, if I could interject just slightly, Clemens, it's an annual internal audit for basic performance now, but it's a 2-year document update in terms of major changes.
Right.
Yeah, so.
But as you make changes, let's say in December, you want to make 6 or 7 minor changes to your document, are you just going to keep that in-house and then export it to the state every 2 years after we vote on it, or how are you going to, what are you going to do with those issues?
I think, quite frankly, that, and I'm gonna ask Dave this question because we had that actually, we went through this, essentially yesterday and today. But in essence, this is a document that is certified, quite frankly, by me pushing the button. And it's my understanding that I would need your authorization to click this button and certify it online. So, can't answer the question about how do we proceed with the changes, but the certification happens electronically.
I mean, I guess what I'm trying to get to, just for all of us who are on the same page, I don't care about the button certification process. What I'm more concerned about is maintaining a live document on a current basis and how that will be operationalized. And if I'm hearing you correctly, you guys may make changes on an ongoing basis, but there's going to be a period in which it's going to be brought forward for review. Is that, in essence, what we're looking at?
That's what I'm anticipating, yes.
And I'm
Well,
okay with that. I just want to make sure
yeah.
we're all clear.
I can't underscore enough, however, that the ultimate responsibility lies with the board. And so, on the one hand, it's important to the board adopt the document. As far as accessibility on the website, I can't recall our conversation on that aspect. Did you raise that issue?
Well, we had essentially communication by email, which I don't know the outcome of, do we need a resolution?
Oh, yeah, we have, yes, I have.
What is it
I have-
essentially that we need from the board
Yeah.
specifically?
Yeah, no, I have a resolution in hand. In fact, I emailed it to you late today. You probably haven't seen it.
Okay.
But yes, I recommend the action be taken by resolution.
Okay, so I guess what I'm trying, I don't want to drive this too deeply. I get the resolution and doing that by us reviewing this and having it done. I guess my question is going to be is you're going to be making the changes on an ongoing basis as you progress between. And I'm trying to get a feel how you operationalize your changes. There are major changes that would come to the group. I would like to, I guess what I'm trying to get to is I would like to be able to have the staff feel, okay, gotta make keep this document current. There ought to be a system in which they should do that. And we should have a clear understanding of at what level should this come to the board and at what level are we going to allow. I don't know.
Well, I think some actually, if I could kind of comment on, well, two things. One, how I see other districts handling it, and two, part of what the document governs inside itself, if you will. If it's minor technical changes or there's new data for the or flows or something that's typical operation for the month, that's kind of just data collection that we would accumulate through the end of the year. If there's something of critical importance, this document mainly is talking about things that go wrong or major changes. We might update the system map because our capital plan removed a manhole or something. But if there's something substantive like a SSO that's critical, it's the management's obligation to bring it to the attention of the board. And I think that's handled on an as-needed basis. And then at the end of the year, if there's a summary of, well, we've done better this year or worse, then that could be.
That fairly well states the issue. There's where it gets sticky is whether or not a change is substantive. Clerical corrections and clerical changes are fine. Even perhaps data changes and updates, but those might affect some of the substantive provisions as well.
That's true.
So that part is a judgment call. Generally, from a managerial standpoint, I recommend that you collect over a period of time, 6 months, a year, whatever it might be, what changes would be advisable to bring it up to date, and then bring them back and have the board approve it. So,
I think, Dwight, the way you would expect us to maintain this is probably similar as the update to the standard specification in which we, as Dave stated, we collect a number of changes that are, and bring those to the board. Now, of course, if there's a phone number that needs to be changed in the emergency notification list, we will do so. But everything else, we will collect and bring at least back to you every other year, if not every year.
For the most part, it's really a managerial decision. If Clemens has a question, he can call me and we can talk about it, but for the most part, I think it's been pretty well described. It's a matter of housekeeping. As time goes by, yes, there are going to be some changes, some important from the standpoint of substance, otherwise not. And the state board promulgates revisions to its order as well,
Right.
which may well trigger an immediate requirement or not. Again, that's kind of a judgment call.
I'm looking at the State Water Board Development Guide for these documents, and I think this very, very succinctly captures everything that's been said. If major changes are proposed for the sewer system management program, then they need to be approved by a board of directors in the case of a sewer district. So, and I think that's what we've seen too. From time to time, we see things that are material and they come back to the board. It's not very often. Every couple of years. I would just ask that when you bring it back to us that we have something with change bars so we can see what's actually different, so we can focus in on, once you've done it for a while, it's just, all you really need to know is what's changed. So
There's a little bit of a parallel, which, again, it's a practical matter. From time to time, you adopt ordinances which revise the code. And I generally, I try to keep the code up to date so that what's on the website is current for everybody. Happily, you don't adopt an ordinance every meeting because that can get kind of complicated. But generally, we try to do it on an annual basis.
Catherine?
Well, yeah, I noticed, for instance, that things that will need to be changed fairly soon. One is Michael Dolder is no longer the Half Moon Bay City manager.
Yeah.
I don't know about Charlie Bose as the Public Works Superintendent. That may depend entirely on who the new city manager is and what goes on. And I do see that, I did hear that Tony may be retiring soon. And
Yeah, and there's going to be an alternate in.
so there will be.
That's actually listed in the main document.
Yeah, I
there,
see that.
Tim, but that isn't decided in stone
but-
yet. They're still doing their, that's
Well,
likely.
our
But
tone. Okay.
yeah, you're Tony. The
That's
technical,
let me
technical
just mention,
super.
since it came up,
Those are
just
detailed
for the audience, it's actually worth mentioning that I believe his title is Superintendent of Operations down at the Sewer Authority Midco site, has been working for Sam for over 3 decades, and you'd never know it to look at him. He looks pretty young, but Tony has he's just been a mainstay, and like several of our folks down at Sam, it's just been wonderful, and we're going to find more opportunities to sing his praises. But he has told us that he's intending to retire this year, and we've been ruining the day that we heard that news. But you can't give a guy a 30-year award and not wonder. And apparently the thought crossed his mind too. So if anybody's earned a retirement. At any rate, he lives here in our community, the Montara Moss Beach community, and it's just an opportunity to say good things about someone who's been very quietly laboring very hard and long behind the scenes to, as it says here, to work on what the public never sees. So.
Right. But those are small changes that the staff should be making, and I think the only thing that should be, if things change, it's important to bring the flow charts and those to the board so we're aware of those changes.
Does he look young compared to us, or does he look young in general?
He looks young
He
in
looks
general.
young compared to me.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Now, he looks very young. I don't know Well, it's about growing up in the fog.
Or
Compared
working
to
at the
us.
sewer plant, I don't know.
Compared to us and in general.
Which fog, the fat or the?
Oh,
I'm pretty sure that Tony, like so many of our folks at SAM, has found himself in the thick of it more than once.
oh,
Here we go again.
all right,
Yeah.
let's move on.
All right, so so you'll be bringing this back to us, Clemens, and we have no action tonight. It's getting on towards 9. Bill, did you have any comments or questions? You may be on mute.
Oh, I was on mute, and I had to wake the phone up first. No, I just haven't had a chance to read it, so I really don't have anything to say about it.
Okay. All right. Well, let's see. Thank you, Pippin. This is looking good. And as I was looking over the diagrams, I realized, every now and then I'm wondering exactly what to expect when one of these events occurs. And now I can open up the reference book and sit there and drive up to the situation and see if we're doing it right. All right. Well, thank you. Now we have new business 3, review and possible action concerning the CCWD draft environmental impact. Am I skipping ahead? No, I'm not. Draft environmental impact report for Denniston/San Vicente water supply project.
So the Costa County Water District released a draft environmental impact report for the Denniston and San Vicente water supply project. The comment period closes on October 3, and I have to admit that while I've glanced over the report, before today was, I think, the first time that I really had a chance to look at some of the sections a bit closer. What the project essentially suggests is the increase of water extractions of Denniston Creek, and it suggests the construction of a pipeline that allows the Costa County Water District to take water from San Vicente Creek. They have so far never taken water from San Vicente Creek, and that would be, the water would be taken at different times. There's another water user, and that has water rights there, and essentially the district would, for example, use more water in the winter time. The Costa County Water District. Now, looking at the document today, I have to say I was fairly impressed with the science that went into it. I think there was a lot of potential that can come out of this. I do want to mention that there's actually quite a bit of angles that the district has to consider looking at this document.
I mean, our district.
Our district. First of all, we know and understand that both creeks, both Denniston and San Vicente Creek, replenish the groundwater in the airport aquifer. The airport aquifer is used by this district. It's also used by Costa County Water District. It supplies the water to Pillowridge Water Community that we're in the process of purchasing. And there are other smaller users in this aquifer. One of the angles that is coming up that I'm trying to understand right now is that essentially last Friday there was some legislation passed that in looking at some of that today as well, it looks to me as if the local agencies actually will be required to establish integrated regional groundwater management plans. So there is another angle that essentially just arises that we have to consider looking at this document. I believe there is, again, we have to review this document in its entirety to fully understand it. So going through this today, I almost would recommend to the board to authorize me to ask for an extension of the review period. It ends on October 3, it started on August 19, we got the notice, of course, a couple of days late. And I think looking at the size of the document, the amount of work that is involved in going through this, we should probably ask for an extension. We might take other steps. For example, we could invite Coastside County Water District to make a presentation at this meeting. Was another thought that I had today. But in essence, we're in the initial stages looking at this document.
Yep, Catherine.
I can agree with you on that. I would hope that we are getting Balance Hydrologics, who has the most extensive knowledge of the coastside groundwater systems. Did they do the document for CCWD? If they did, then we should get someone else. But if they didn't, then I'd like to get Balance to look at it and help us review it.
Cool. Well, they did a portion of the EIR. They did a lot of field work, provided a lot of analysis, and provided a lot of knowledge on the groundwater section. Quite frankly, they have not been the company that prepared the EIR. They've provided their knowledge and input. I had discussions with Balance Hydrologics before they engaged with Coastside County Water District.
I remember that.
About potential conflict of interest, and I believe it is worth contacting Balance and considering them for comments as well.
Yeah. Otherwise, the engineer who Pillar Ridge has been using for their groundwater studies is also very familiar with that particular airport aquifer, and they might be useful. But I know in my discussions with Barry and Mark, they just are, I have always found them to be entirely ethical and remarkably knowledgeable and very forthcoming with what they see as issues and concerns and not to be concerns too.
They have been, and the input to the EIR was provided by Barry. We have received a lot of work that was done for the district was done by Mark Wojcik.
Right.
I think we should talk to Mark Wojcik and actually ask him to review the EIR for us. It doesn't mean that we have to, that we cannot prepare our own comments.
Right.
We need to review this on our own and maybe engage with a different firm, but I would say we should start actually with Balance.
Yeah.
Other board members?
I think I would underscore from a legal standpoint, the advent of the new legislation, which I frankly haven't had an opportunity to go through, but just generally, my impression is it's going to take a fair amount of analysis. It's fairly complex, but I would agree that the overarching purpose is to provide for local groundwater regulation, and that includes us. And I'd have to find out how soon and how mandatory that is.
I think you have 5 years. Is the-
Yeah.
is the-
There are stages of that, that's right.
Yeah, it was 2020 or so.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the process for here is really what, we will have to deal with this independent of that legislation, from my understanding. But I really, I guess I'm intruding in your comments, I apologize, but I like the approach you're taking. Catherine, to your point, I think the due process is, I think giving due process an extension of time to make sure we review this appropriately is the right thing to do.
Bill, do you have any comments or questions? You may be on mute.
Yes, I was on mute. First of all, what is the comment period?
It started on August 19 and ends on October 3.
Yeah, that, I think I would be the last to argue not to extend it. So,
Okay.
because I think that it is a long and detailed document. There's a lot to absorb there, and I think that but how long an extension would we be asking for? A month?
I think that CEQA has specific requirements, and I think that's up to us to negotiate that probably. I think we can ask for 90 days or so. Is that true?
Yeah. Yeah, that.
So,
I mean, I don't think it should go on indefinitely, but I do think that there should be a greater period of time to look into this more closely. But there are a lot of complicated issues related to this.
Yeah, I would agree, Bill, and I think, I mean, we need, when we negotiate for more time, we may determine that we need to develop some of our own data. We have a very strong interest in the shared aquifer.
Yeah.
So if we determine that we need to go get our own data, we're going to need as much time as CEQA allows. I don't want to be abusive of the process. If we can do without that, that's great. But I don't think we should put ourselves in a situation where we might have to go back and ask for a second. I would rather ask for more time and then finish early. And I mean, there are working partners on a number of things, and so I think if we're upfront about, look, we may need the time, so we're going to ask for it, but we're going to work expeditiously to get this resolved, because we know that time is money for them. I mean, it is for us when people challenge ours. And we're not even challenging, we're just wondering and have to do some exploration on it. So I think I'm hearing strong consensus on us going and asking for time.
Yeah, I do feel that same way, that it's just a matter of, in my mind, procedure to have enough time to be able to look at it carefully and just have that extra little time to say, is there something that we haven't looked into properly? And it seems like it becomes even more important for us now because of the 3 wells at Pillar Ridge, that has even more of an impact on us as a district that it may have had previously. So I think there should be a little extra time to study this before making comments.
Okay, thank you, Catherine.
One of the important things to throw into the letter, into the request, is we need to be able to integrate their EIR with the county groundwater study as well, which is the most recent previous groundwater study, and just be able to compare their data and the older data.
there was a lot of data used from that study. So I was looking into this today. I was fairly impressed with the amount of research that was done for this so far.
That may be, but you need to make sure they didn't transpose some numbers somewhere.
Sure.
Accidents happen. You know how data
Okay,
is.
so I think
Can't argue.
with that, so this item was for board information only, but I believe staff has a consensus on direction.
Yes.
Okay, let's see if we can finish strong here. What do you say? Report, Sewer Authority Mid-Coast Side.
We had a meeting on August 25th, and we had, we received an update from the Ad hoc Recycled Water Committee, which we had seen previously at the MWSD meeting. We authorized SRT to complete the plant's safety and reliability study, so they were halfway through, so that the board voted to complete, to let SRT complete that project. And the only condition was that we gave direction to the general manager to look into giving us information about what the minimum peer review process would involve, because it's such an important project for the SAM district.
If I could
Sure.
put some nuance on that, one director asked for that. It's a not to exceed $30,000 engineering project completion approval. So one director asked for that, of 1 out of 6.
And that is to look at a peer review for the plant safety and reliability study. So the general manager will present those options to the board at the next SAM meeting. And then the other things that happened is the SAM board authorized the manager to complete the purchase of the combination vacuum and flusher truck. This is a larger truck for servicing the entire SAM district. We authorized the manager to purchase pump-based repairs. So some of the pumps are being repaired in the district. And then we authorized the manager to purchase a primary clarifier drive unit. So that we have two units, one that can be repaired and one that can be taken down. So these were things that had to be done, and the board approved those. And that's it. Scott, do you want to add anything more to that?
Sure. Let me mention a couple of things. One, the flusher truck takes several months to build, so don't look for it on the streets anytime soon. I believe it's going to take 6 to 8 months to build.
Can we park it so that people can look at it like a fire truck?
It's a lot like a fire truck.
Truck jealousy will get you nowhere.
It won't be
I wanna see
it won't
it.
be the pretty
I wanna
red color
drive
though.
Oh, darn.
But it will transport quite a lot of liquid.
Maybe we
So,
should vote on a new color for Sam's for all its vehicles.
You know,
like
if you want to
fluorescent green or
run
something.
the bake sale to come up with the high quality paint job that can withstand the ocean spray, let me know. Let's see, ocean spray. Yeah, I guess we have a lot of euphemisms, don't we? The SAM Recycled Water Ad Hoc Committee met again this week, and we're going to take some things back to the SAM board, but I can give you a sneak preview. Let me mention, in attendance this time were the 3 ad hoc committee members, so Alan Alifano, who is chairing our meetings, myself, and Rick Lohman, who is, so Alan is from the city of Half Moon Bay, and Rick is from Granada Sanitary. Our general manager, Rob Hopkins, was there, representing, we had representatives from both water agencies. Maybe you've heard of them. One is Coastside County Water District, and for CCWD, that was Ken Coverdell, one of their directors. And another water district close to, near and dear to our hearts, Montara Water and Sanitary District, was represented by Director Dwight Wilson.
God, I got recognized right at the
You,
beginning.
I am bound and determined to never live down that mistake I made at the last meeting.
You will always be remembered.
That's right. It'll also be memorialized in the.
Isn't it in the minutes?
Oh, I'm sure they will.
I goofed at the last meeting and
Well, it
just,
should
I'm
be
so
in the
comfortable
minutes, right?
sitting next to Dwight. I think you hit me in the arm after that one, but
Something.
all in good fun. But I mea culpa. My apologies. So we met and we discussed quite a number of things. One is just how we're going to decide how to do meetings. since we've got two different kinds of meetings. One is the SAM committee, and then the other is the SAM committee with invited guests. So we broke the meeting into two parts the other night, and we had the grander meeting first, and then our guests left, and then the SAM committee members met and discussed other matters of purely SAM interest. Dwight, do you want to share some thoughts about?
Well, I think the bottom line is that we're trying to develop a document of understanding between the various parties so we can move forward. And the goal here is to get these. I think the SAM group is to prepare a document for the SAM board for
Right.
their approval. And assuming that document is approved, then it will be distributed back to the committee structure for their review, and then actually to the respective boards for their review. So the goal here is everyone is in agreement that the major project is to get the golf course under the recycling as step one, and all the logistics to do that, and keep it focused on that project, and making sure that we all understand that relationship and keep that document simple, clear, and flexible.
Right.
So our hoping here is that whole process will be completed by sometime in November, December. I think that's the short.
Yeah, I think the meeting went very well.
I do too.
I think by keeping the scope very clear, pretty well bounded, I think there was some discussion about, okay, so what's different this time from last time? And that's worth touching on, because last time let me just kind of wave something around here. We had a bunch of stuff ready to go. And I mean, up to and including a submission to Anna Eshu's office to try to carry something through Congress for us. And we had letters of support from, this doesn't look all that impressive, but if you've ever gone out to get official letters of support, this is from every environmental organization on the coast side, and Chamber of Commerce, and a bunch of others. I mean, it was a very good collection. We got really far, but there was one critical thing that happened, and that was like, yeah, being in the sanitary business, we should be used to things going in the crapper, but the economy really went in the tank, and we went out for funding in 2009 or 2010, and that's when everything went bad. And not only was Anna not able to bring home money for us, she really wasn't able to bring home money for hardly anybody else. She got a little bit, but it went to the really big agencies. But the reason to revisit that is because we had considered a variety of projects, and we'd come down to two basic approaches. And we are back to discussing essentially the one of those two that penciled out best, both in cost and time. The user who would be using this, the golf courses, needs this water soon, has needed it for some time, so we don't want it to take any longer than it needs to. And if you pick the project that takes longer, it almost always costs more. And our agency has long been interested in doing everything we can to design our projects so that we don't need the lengthy approval periods. And I went and dug up some stuff from 2009, and this is a Gantt chart of the project timeline for one of the approaches. And the other approach, which we could still do if we wanted to, this is the Gantt chart. And you can't see it, so I'll read it to you. The key difference here is in the duration. The first one is 440 days. The second one is 1,026 days. So I just want everyone to know we have that choice. We can essentially pick up where we left off and get to a project solution producing water pretty quickly. 440 days sounds like a lot until you've been in this business where, taking over a water system took 30 years. Getting to where we could build our new big tank has taken 10. We've gotten other things done along the way, but some good things really do take a lot of time. this is the blink of an eye in terms of a municipal project, and we and the people who run the golf courses believe that we really can do it this quickly. CCWD and others may be able to put money up to get this thing funded and going. So by being very particular about the project, defining our roles carefully, and before we get into it, making sure we have an agreement on who's doing which part, who goes for which permits, who has control over the water, who the distribution, who has control over the design of the treatment. I think we're in agreement, and it boils down to simply this. SAM builds the facility. CCWD builds the pipeline to get from the fence at SAM across Pilicetos Creek to the well sites, and at that point, Ocean Colony Partners, the owners and operators of the golf courses who own those well sites and pumps, would be responsible for getting the connection made. And there'd be some operational considerations about who turns valves when. Those are things that we can get to. The principles about who does which part. There was contention last time over that. This time we're all pretty much singing from the same hymnal on this. SAM does the stuff on the SAM facility site. CCWD runs the pipeline. It's only 300 feet. Getting across a creek makes that more than 300 feet.
Wait, there's a bridge then.
Yeah, we're actually talking about doing the most direct run, and
Doesn't include that bridge.
which doesn't include the bridge, and doing a trellis or elevated structure over the creek, double sleeving the pipe or something similar to guard against spills. I mean, the water's going to be pretty good water anyway, but it's a protected waterway, so the more caution we show, I don't believe that adds a lot of expense. Good design, proper cautions, and then regulators who are very supportive and pretty much asking the question, how soon? You know, the Coastal Commission is very clearly wants to see recycled water used for things like the golf courses. Coastal Conservancy has some interest, and who knows, we might even be able to get some money from them. Certainly we can get some help on clearing regulatory hurdles. We don't really anticipate problems from Fish and Wildlife or Fish and Game, or the Army Corps, or any of the other regulatory bodies that would be in here. The difference, by the way, let me mention on the Gantt charts, is whether we require an EIR or a mitigated negatives declaration. You design your project right, and you go for, you know, really stringent on the environmental, and we should be able to do this thing very quickly. And that sounds like a pipe dream, but Sam has done this recently with the structure that we did in the Burnham Strip in El Granada. We did that on a mitigated negative declaration, and we showed the before and after pictures, and it was basically the same picture. And we could say the environment is better off, and we haven't disturbed the important things. So we're protecting the important things without causing harm to the important things. And if we do our design that way, I think we can get there. So Rob, our general manager, is going to be memorializing some of what we agreed on about how we're going to do our meetings. The three SAM committee members are, we're trading around the draft right now to try to distill something simple that we can bring back to SAM and then to the water agencies to see if we can reach accord on the kind of basically a simplified memorandum of understanding. Once we have that, I think we'll be able to really get underway. And I just want to take the opportunity again to remind that we've got a lot of work under our belts, and we can save a ton of time and money if we pick up where we left off and go. The only real differences would be that some of the treatment package plants, some of the technology in those has gotten better and cheaper. So we would expect our costs to go down from last time, from our estimates last time. So sorry for being so lengthy, but
We're almost done.
This is a pretty big thing for us to take on. And last time we hit some speed bumps, and this time I think this could really happen. So it's worth knowing ahead of time kind of what we're aiming at. So if we need to course correct it all, we've got a little bit of time.
I have a Sam question. The other day, I ended up calling, I saw some huge dump trucks parked on top of our wet weather overflow facility in Granada. So I called the office, Sam office, and asked them to have someone look into it. And when I was coming back from Half Moon Bay, I noticed them parked on an area in Granada where we have a easement, but some of the sand pipes are a little fragile in that area. And I thought, boy, I'm not sure things got improved, and it may have been at a greater risk. So it's a several-fold question. One, is Sam talking about repairing those more fragile pipes that have been sort of gently pieced together?
Where are you talking about?
Just south, just north of the creek there, just north of the Half Moon Bay
I need
city
you to
line.
choose one, north or south.
Just north of the Half Moon Bay city line, south of the wet weather overflow system. I've forgotten the name of
You
this.
talking about south of Coronado or north of Coronado?
Sort of across from Coronado.
No, it crosses Coronado.
Okay, then at Coronado on the east side.
We did a lot of work in the crossing at Coronado because we had the leak in the force main.
Right, right.
A couple of
And
years ago now.
I think it didn't, I have heard that there were maybe some recommendations to possibly replace that pipe, that it's not as sturdy as it should be.
We had.
My other question
Hang on, let me
is-
answer your first question, because we have done, SRT did study that section of pipe and made some recommendations, and we have done quite a bit of work along there. We could certainly ask about where we are, but you're saying they were parked to the south of Coronado.
I believe it was just in that area. Could have been on the north and the south side of the street itself. They were sort of,
So we, for the wet weather project, there were supposed to be bollards or other obstacles to parking, so we should inquire about that.
But there was some, at the last meeting, the general manager reported that there was some manhole cover, manhole work in that area where they replaced and rebuilt some of the manholes.
yeah, but
in
there
that
are
area.
no bollards to prevent big trucks from going into that area in the,
Could you give us give me an idea, what time was that, just a month ago, or?
no, it was within the last week or so.
Oh, that wasn't, that must have been some other, it wasn't a
Truck off
Sam
the-
truck.
No, it was
So-
not Sam trucks. These
so-
were big dump trucks.
Okay, so we're in the home stretch here. Tell you what, let's talk offline.
Let's
I'll
talk
I'll
offline.
make sure that we talk to Rob and also to our friends at Granada, because it's their property, and they had some thoughts about how to prevent that very kind of thing from happening. So
Right,
thanks for
and
bringing
it
that up.
may be that Sam wants to be able, on our easements along the highway, to
Right.
put that no trucks over X weight should be parked
Oh,
there.
gotcha.
Okay, thank you, Catherine.
All right. Okay. You know, in waving all that paper around, here we go. The Mid-Coast Community Council meeting.
Can I just give you some quick updates?
Sure.
And I will be quick. You wore me down. So let me just tell you what's coming up that's probably important to anybody who's still awake after that lovely discussion. This
That was
Wednesday.
an exciting discussion.
It was. I was on my edge of my chair. This week, this coming Wednesday, at the MCC is going to have, its main topic will be on the Princeton plan. It's going to be an update to what's been going on in preparation for an actual community meeting on October 2nd at the hotel, where they'll take community input. So there'll be people from the county basically going over where the Princeton plan is right now, and you can formulate questions or opinions for the October 2nd meeting. Then on Thursday, they're actually going to have the first of the League of Women Voters Forum for the Harbor District, and that is going to be either at the Yacht Club or Cypress Garden, and I don't, is it at Cypress? Oh, thank you, because I know they kept flipping back and forth, and I just couldn't remember where it was at, so.
So we know it's going to be filmed.
Yes, yeah, at 7, I assume, right? So that will be good. And then I said the second one, oh, and then the other one, they'll have the League of Women Voters back on October 7th, but that will be at GSD, and that's for the fire district. of which yours truly is running. I had to get that in, it's a plug, I'm sorry. Cheap, I know, that's the way I am.
Moving
And then
along.
Cheap thrills.
I want to thank, actually, Montara Water and Sam and GSD and Half Moon Bay. They all sent representatives last month to the Coastside Emergency Operations planning that's going on. There's going to be another one a week from tomorrow. I know the invitations were sent out, so I hope you received something, Clemens, and I hope, no? Oops.
I did not receive an invitation for that one.
Well, it's all part of the first one,
Can you
but
forward it?
I will. I'll double check. I got a copy, but
Thanks for forwarding the first one to me as well.
we got to get your email on that address. Anyway, it was actually quite successful. A lot of people, a lot of different agencies. This is the first time we had independent water and sewer agencies, which is, to me, like primary in any kind of disaster planning. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
All right, terrific, thank you. CSDA report.
Nothing.
CCWD, North Coast County Water District Committee report.
If I may, Bill, do you want to take this? I can briefly report.
Yeah, well, go ahead, Clemens.
I don't think there's anything that has happened since the last time we reported. Essentially, I think the next step is for the general managers to meet and confer. I believe that somewhere on vacation, and so hopefully we can pick this up very soon.
Have we reported that we met with the North Coast County? Did we report that?
Yes, you did.
We did, okay.
I believe we did.
Yeah, the last
Yes.
meeting.
Okay.
Okay, attorney's report.
Nothing other than we already mentioned the groundwater legislation, which would be kind of fun to sort out and implement.
You know, the other thing would be really nice is the bond issue. You know, the one on the November ballot.
Our bond?
No, the twin
State
tunnels.
bond, the
Yeah.
7-9 bill, whatever that amount is.
It's real easy, just vote no.
Well, I'm not sure I have the same opinion, but I think what would be more important is maybe we could just get, one of us could just summarize it or just have it, just a factual summary, and then we all can come to it. I mean, there's lots of parts of that bond, and it's an interesting issue.
It's on the ballot.
It's on the ballot.
Right.
So, and it's a relatively, it divides it up in a variety of issues, and how we vote is a different issue, but I think from a factual standpoint.
If the board wants to take a position on it, of course.
I don't
that's-
think we need to, but I think it would be nice to just
All right.
share what's in it. That's, in fact, I'm not even sure it's appropriate for
Since
us.
it doesn't
We have,
really
and
affect
we have in
us,
the past.
Well, we can, whatever, that's a.
except
different
monetarily.
All right, director's reports.
Nothing to report.
I'd like to make a comment that I just got back today from Bend, Oregon, and in the Bend area, the water is, in part of the Bend area, the water is supplied by a private for-profit water company. And they have requested from the Oregon PUC a 28% increase in water rates. And having looked at the Deschutes River and the other water sources, there's not a water shortage in the Bend areas, but nevertheless they asked for a 20% increase. So the homeowners associations are asking for a delay, asking the Oregon PUC for a delay, and they have just begun to look into what their options are on buying out or getting control of the private for-profit water distributor in the Bend area. So it's, 20% increase is a huge increase for that area, and the homeowners are not very happy about that. And then the same situation exists in, as I said last time, in Monterey, Carmel, Seaside, Pebble Beach, and Marina. So I just wanted to tell you that there are people that are behind us that haven't gotten as far as we have in that regard. Yes.
I just want to say, wherever you travel, does this black cloud follow you? Is that what you're trying to tell us?
Are you saying that?
Don't come near my house.
Are you saying that I'm an instigator? No, I just read the newspaper. I just go there and read the newspaper.
It's, if you buy an Etzel, you'll see other Etzels.
And there are so few.
I wish I had, I wish I had an Edsel.
General Manager's report.
Just
Nothing at this time.
Hearing no objections.
Wait, future agendas, I have.
Did you have
some-
a?
I did. if
Oh,
I can get my-
Joe, no,
I mean,
there's no detail
I know,
there.
I know having me even
All right.
be introduced is a problem, but I just want to let, from public, on the 18th, I have a work conflict that I'm not going to be able to avoid, if that makes any difference on the next meeting, so that's just an FYI for people.
All right, so what can we get away with, team?
Yeah.
No, okay, well, thanks for letting us know. Okay,
So, for whatever that's worth.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
any other directors?
Future agenda items, I think it would be a good idea to have something presented on the bond and also, on,
state bond.
the state bond, and also on groundwater and special district legislation that may have gone through. I think this, new groundwater legislation may have some opportunities for us that I'd like to discuss offline with you, Clemens and Scott. And so I think it would be good to inform our public and the public at large about what's going on in Sacramento that will affect us directly.
Great.
All right. Well, thank you, everyone. Hearing no objection.
Did we have asked for an attorney's report?
Oh, yes, I did.
We did, okay.
Man, I just heard that's 3 objections when I said hearing no objection. I'm going to try it again. Hearing no objection, we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Catherine, what was the third